Hello and welcome to my new show. In this topic, I'm just going to cover some issues that are facing the Ummah. Basically, I'm going to talk about some of the conflicts that we're facing. I know there's a lot going on. We have obviously the Palestine thing, and that's been going on for as long as anyone can remember, really. And also we have some things going on in Sudan. I know there's a little bit that's happening in Kashmir, and there's some things that are happening in Burma. I think these are the main ones. Whether there's any more going on, I could probably find out. And yeah, I mean there's conflict going on everywhere, but I think these are the main ones. So basically, I'm just gonna talk about these things, and hopefully we can get a bit of guidance how to approach these issues. I'm not going to just talk about conflicts. I mean, we could talk about anything else, but for me, these are the biggest things that are actually facing us as an ummah. And to me, there's not enough guidance going on about like some real rational, balanced things that aren't uh, they need to be grounded in reality, right? So I'm just going to give this a go myself. I'm going to talk about what's happening first of all in Palestine, and then I'm going to talk about a few things that are happening in Sudan, and then I might also cover Kashmir and Burma, and we'll see if there's anything else that comes up, any other issues. But I guess in this show, in this episode, or whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to talk about what's actually happening in these main areas where there's a lot of bads, injustice, and essentially not good things happening to us, right? Now, my slant on this show is that I'm going to speak from my perspective as firstly as a Muslim, but also as a New Zealander, how I see things, and how this perspective applies to the way that we can broker for peace, and also make the argument for better ways of doing things. I know in this part of the world we don't really see much fighting. We're quite lucky, and I guess having this perspective helps us to necessarily maybe have the angle that fighting is never a good thing, because we don't really see it much in these ways. I mean, sometimes there are some things that do happen. We had a terrorist attack in Christchurch, and there's also been some terrorism in Bondi in Australia. But apart from these things, it's pretty rare. We don't see it much, and I think this is a big source of hire for us. We're quite a peaceful place, and I guess that's part of the perspective that I want to bring to this channel, as well as an Islamic lens, and we'll see what we can come up with, right? So I'm just going to talk firstly about what's going on right now in Gaza, and how we can see things as Muslims, and maybe just try to keep our heads right, because war's bad, and until these things stop, we're just going to be angry, or we're not going to have real peace, right? So I'll get started, and I'll talk about what's happening. So firstly, in Gaza, the Rafah crossing and hostage operations. So Israel agrees to a limited reopening of Rafah crossing. Israel's government has announced it will allow the Rafah border crossing with Egypt to reopen on a limited basis, specifically for pedestrian movement only and under full Israeli control. The reopening is part of the second phase of a US brokered ceasefire plan and is contingent on conditions set by Israel's Security Cabinet. So there's a few things that stand out for me here. Basically, we have our ceasefire, and we can say Alhamdulillah, right? Because I think for me, when I first started joining in the protests that were happening all around everywhere, but I mean in my own town, we had them too, and this was the only thing that I really wanted to petition for. I didn't really know anything else that was going on. I didn't know what Joe Biden was doing, and I didn't know what who was, I think, Rishi Sunak. He was the Prime Minister in the UK at the time. I didn't really know what he was doing, and doesn't really matter, but I didn't really give it much thought. And the only real thing that I really wanted was there to be a ceasefire, because like, what more can you hope for, right? So basically, the thing I want to share here is let's be grateful as an ummah, because we have our ceasefire, and what more can we really hope for? There is, I mean, this has been set in place by international authority, and if one side's not playing by the rules, that's their fault. I guess we can strive and continue to keep upholding truth as much as we can, and if we keep to our terms, then we have Allah to essentially ratify this agreement. We know that these people that we're dealing with, they don't really play fair, and we don't need to worry about what they do, because when we are doing our best, basically we have Allah on our side, and we've seen enough atrocity, we've seen enough horror, we've seen enough terrible things, and we don't need to go down the same track of starting another conflict, because basically we know what's going to happen. So what I want to say is, let's be really grateful that there's a ceasefire in place. You can argue with me if you want. You can say, like, look, they're breaking the terms, but we need to be realistic about this. There is an internationally brokered ceasefire in place, and what better outcome can the Ummah have, really? Are we gonna go beyond that? What goal is greater than peace? We're Muslims. This is our goal. It's in every part of our creed, is to have peace. So if you want more than peace, you're asking for too much, right? So that's what I have to say about the ceasefire. Now, the next thing I have to say, it really seems to me like they are trying to essentially continue their way about doing things, which is setting unreasonable terms, such as, I mean, this is a limited opening of Rafah, of the Rafah crossing, and it's contingent on conditions set by Israel, by their security cabinet. So we know what they've done in the past. They break rules, they lie, they cheat, they kill, they murder. So I guess we don't want them to tell us what we can do, and then have them go ahead and break the rules, and then tell us that it's our fault for breaking rules that they've set and broken themselves. This is hypocrisy. It's scandalous, and we're not going to let ourselves become essentially humiliated by people that lie and deceive, and think that they can get away with it, because the reality is the whole world can see them now, and the way I see it, they're losing momentum, and yeah, I think shame on them, right? Really, that's what I have to say. So that's the first issue. That's the first thing. Now, secondly, condition: recovery of the last hostages remain. remains. So a central condition for the reopening is the completion of a targeted Israeli military operation to locate the body of the last remaining Israeli hostage, Master Sergeant Ran Vili, whose remains are still inside Gaza. Israel says it will not open Rafah until this operation concludes, and all hostages, living or deceased, have been accounted for as stipulated in the peace plan. So if they're keeping to the peace plan, if they're actually keeping to it, then that will be a fair deal. It seems like they're not. So if they're telling us that we have to do what they say while they go ahead and kill, murder, doesn't seem to be fair to me. So, I mean, the way I see it, it's a really small issue. And if that's all they want, my opinion is then, I mean, it's not much to ask for. So are they using this this as some kind of chip, some kind of excuse to go on oppressing and killing and murdering and maiming as many people as they can while they have something that they can claim to be upset about? Is this what they're doing? Are they delaying peace so that they can get away with the most terrible crimes that have been known to humanity? And ironically, because we know that these people were subjected to extreme condition during the Holocaust of the Second World War, and they go ahead and do exactly the same thing to others. So what's going on, right? Where's the sanity, and where's the standard, right? So if that's all they want, it doesn't seem to matter too much. But are they going to stop there when they get this guy? Are they going to stop, or are they going to come up with another excuse to go ahead and do whatever they want, to murder, to destroy towns, all over what? What's going on, right? So that's the second issue. Now the third thing. Israeli forces launched a focus mission in northern Gaza, searching known sites, including cemeteries, based on intelligence about the Gvili's potential location. No specific timeline has been given for when the search will conclude. So I feel like I could just be repeating myself about the same issues that I've already talked about to do with this one thing. Are they gaslighting here? Are they just using this as a chip to continue on killing? And there's no timeline has been given for when they'll stop. So I don't buy it, but we know what they do, right? So that's that. Now, limited humanitarian impact so far. Even if opened, the limited status means aid convoys and large-scale commercial deliveries are not yet authorized. Rights groups and regional actors have repeatedly emphasized Rafah's role as Gaza's primary humanitarian lifeline, stressing that restricted access still leaves civilians in dire conditions. So I'm going to say the same thing as I said before. Are we going to let them set the terms and try to humiliate us by reducing us to beggars, basically begging for the basic necessities of life, such as food and water? That's not okay. We're not going to let that happen. And shame on them. I mean, who do they think they are, right? I mean, what would any other civilized nation in the whole world do? I think everyone's kind of had their voice. I think most of the world wants to see this kind of idiocy, this kind of effing around. They want to see it stop, because it's not a game. We're dealing with people's lives here. We're not just playing a game of chess. We're actually dealing with humanity and the future of a civilized world order. So it's not good. Now, the last thing, broader ceasefire context. This move is part of the fragile US mediated ceasefire framework that began in late 2025, aiming to reduce hostilities, release hostages, and potentially initiate reconstruction. Despite the truce, occasional strikes and skirmishes continue across various parts of Gaza and southern Israel. So, I mean, what's going on here? We have a ceasefire mediated by the US, so it's pretty legit if you ask me. And they are still breaking the terms. They are still killing, and the whole world can see it. So what we can do is uphold our side. And I mean, when they break the rules, they're going to get punished for it. I mean, what goes up must come down. This is not just a saying. This is the laws of physics. This is the laws of reality, and yeah, shame. So that's what's going on in Palestine, right? So I'm not happy about it, but what can you expect, right? I've seen enough of it, really, but who hasn't, right? So I'm going to talk now about what's going on in Sudan. Now, I'm actually learning as I go here, because I don't really watch the news. I think a lot of it's too negative, and it focuses on how bad everything is, and there's no hope on it. But for what I'm doing here, I'm going to find out the facts, and I'm just going to talk about what we can do. I think this is, I mean, I've heard it said that this is a worse humanitarian crisis than what's happening in Palestine, but I have my own opinion on that. Basically, there's such gross oppression happening in Palestine that it's unprecedented. This, I mean, I'm not downplaying it here, but I still think that, yeah, it's not gross oppression. This is more or less fighting. So anyway, you can call me out and say that I'm wrong, but this is my opinion. And I mean, yeah, I'm just gonna carry on. So and bear in mind, I'm on your side. I'm literally trying to solve these problems just by giving a voice to reason here. So what is going on? Overview: a civil war continues into third year. Sudan remains engulfed in a multi-front civil war between the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, and paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, that began in April 2023, following a power struggle within the country's military-led government. The conflict has devastating humanitarian consequences and shows no sign of a definitive end. The main belligerents, the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, the regular army led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, aligned with the internationally recognized government, and the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, a powerful paramilitary group formerly linked to the Janjaweed militia commanded by General Mohammed Hamiti Dagalo. So, I mean, we can say that there's a good side and a bad side here if we wanted to, but the reality is that there's fighting going on between Muslims, and the way I see it, without necessarily like putting the book down and saying this is the way it is, but whenever Muslims are killing each other, I mean, what can you say? Do we pray Salah together and then you know, it seems a bit stupid, but what can you do? So what's actually going on? So the SAF regains control of Khartoum. Sudan's army has recaptured significant parts of the capital, Khartoum. A major symbolic and strategic victory. After years of intense urban warfare, the government has begun a partial return to the city after operating from Port Sudan. since early in the conflict, and conflict's still active across the country. So fighting has spread beyond Khartoum into key regions. Darfur and Kordofan remain contested, with heavy clashes, drone strikes, and ground offensive, especially in central and western Sudan. RSF still holds control over significant swaths west of the Nile, and active fronts include towns like Al Obeid and parts of Darfur. So there's a lot of fighting. It seems like people are probably, I don't know what the actual account is, but it's not good. And yeah, so I'm just going to keep on reading, and hopefully we're gaining some kind of insight from this talk. So I'll carry on. Military dynamics. The SAF is consolidating gains and preparing or conducting operations to recover additional territory held by the RSF, especially in Kordofan and Darfur. So the RSF has not been defeated and continues to fight, employing drone strikes and irregular tactics, and remains a potent force. So, yeah, I mean, one side needs to put down their arms. I don't know what started this conflict. I could find out as I go, but when you do this, you're essentially just opening up the gate to all evil, and it's not a good thing. So I'll keep reading, and I mean, this is not so much the same as the last story about Palestine, but we will see what we can learn. So Sudan's conflict is widely described as one of the largest humanitarian crises in the world, with millions displaced internally across borders, widespread hunger, and severe disruptions to basic services. And political factions opposed to military rule are working to form a new alliance aimed at restoring civilian governance, but success remains uncertain as fighting continues. Yep. And external actors, including regional governments such as Saudi Arabia and the US, have been involved diplomatically and militarily to varying degrees, with the SAF signaling a willingness to engage in peace processes with external support. I mean, I don't know what the right thing to say here is, because it's not really yeah. I guess if I were to say anything, then they should start peace as soon as they can. Don't wait for support. Just try. Just start talking. I mean, what's so bad that you're gonna fight your own brothers for? I don't know what this fight is about. If it was political, or if it's about land or money or whatever, but no one wins. Basically, everyone becomes a loser in this instance, and yeah, what to do, right? So anyway, summary: current military status: the SAF holding control of key urban centers, including most of Khartoum, conducting offensive operations in outlying regions to dislodge RSF, and the RSF, no longer dominant in the capital, still controls parts of Western Sudan and continues to mount military resistance. The war is ongoing, geographically dispersed, and politically unresolved. The situation remains volatile, with continuing military clashes and humanitarian suffering. I'm not downplaying any of the suffering that's going on here. I think I count myself very lucky that I don't have to enjoy any of this stuff. But what's the first step to take to resolve this? I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in their position where I'm in the thick of all this stuff, but I would say we have the guidance from Sunnah. We're not meant to fight each other. So when this is happening, it defeats my common sense here. I don't understand. So I guess what I can say is make dua and yeah, and pray as much as you can, because if this stops, we have a lot more peace together in the Ummah, right? So that's what's going on in Sudan. Now, what is happening in Myanmar and Burma? So we'll find out, right? The military, the junta, control on elections. Military-backed elections have just concluded. Myanmar held a contested general election where the military-backed Union Solidarity and Development Party, the USDP, secured a dominant position in parliament. Critics and many local voters viewed the poll as rigged or illegitimate and designed to cement the junta's hold on power. ASEAN has refused to endorse the election on the grounds that it wasn't free or inclusive. I mean, if they had an election, what are you going to do, right? So I'll continue on, and bear in mind that I'm actually learning about these issues as I go. So don't shoot the messenger. Don't get angry at me because I don't know exactly what's going on. I think as much as we can learn, that's a good thing, right? So what is happening? Armed conflict continues across much of the country. Territory and military control. Independent trackers estimate the junta directly controls less than a quarter of Myanmar's territory, while ethnic armed organizations, EAOs, and People's Defense Forces, PDF, control large swaths, especially in border and interior regions. Resistance advances. The Sagaing region and Northern Front. Anti-junta fighters and ethnic armies are making gains, including advances towards strategic towns like Katha, which threatens junta logistics and influence in the central dry zone. Rebels have also captured or contested territory in Chin, Kachin, and Shan states over the last couple of years. So, I mean, all I can say here is that there's a lot of fighting and there's contested territory, I guess. Now, I'll carry on. The junta continues to rely on air power and artillery to try to maintain control in contested areas, included limited airstrikes on urban and healthcare targets, actions that draw strong international condemnation. Local reports document hundreds of clashes and dozens of airstrikes across Myanmar, suggesting high levels of sustained conflict. So, I mean, it's just not good, right? Doesn't matter who owns the place, just so long as they're not killing each other, I guess. And targeting healthcare targets, that's very cowardly. So even urban areas, I mean, if there's no military there, there's no need for that. But we'll carry on reading, see what we can learn, right? So the junta, the Tat Ma Dao, remains the most powerful armed force institutionally, but it is struggling. So the army suffered significant setbacks in multiple regions and has been on the defensive outside major cities. To sustain operations, the military has expanded conscription, recruiting tens of thousands of new soldiers since 24, allowing it to at least partially rotate and field more troops despite battlefield losses. This has given the junta renewed manpower to launch limited counteroffensives, but far from decisive victories. So, I guess for me to actually know what's going on, I will find out what a junta is. A junta is a military government. usually formed when armed forces seize power, suspend or sideline civilian rule, and govern directly or behind the facade. So, who is in control? In 2021, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing seized power, and I guess it's that's what happened. So, and there's civil war going on in Myanmar. So, I'll carry on talking about what's going on, see if we can get some kind of consensus of what to do. Instead of a genuine peace transition, the junta has chosen a dual strategy, controlling key urban and administrative centers where the central government and civil institutions still function under military authority, holding elections under junta control to project a facade of legitimacy. The elections and state structure changes are widely seen as tools to entrench military power, not meaningful stabilization. So, I mean, this is beyond me. It's a bit ironic to have an army vying for peace. It's like an oxymoron, isn't it? So the way forward for me would be some kind of civilian election where the people choose to vote in who they want to lead them, not a military leader attempting to convince everyone that he's vying for peace when he's got an army behind him, right? So that's what I have to say about that. Now, I'll carry on. So, humanitarian and social context. The conflict has caused mass displacement, severe humanitarian needs, civilian casualties, and economic collapse across most of Myanmar. International criticism remains strong, and ASEAN efforts to mediate have yielded limited progress. So, does no one care? I mean, why is nothing happening? I mean, are we just okay that there is all this killing going on? I don't know exactly what's so wrong that they can't get together and vote. So I guess in the thick of what's going on there, maybe this is a bit too much to hope for, but I guess I don't really know what's going on. So that's that, I guess. Now, summary here. The junta military still holds political power in major cities, but struggling against widespread armed resistance. Opposition forces and ethnic armies control large parts of rural and border regions, making the conflict highly decentralized and protracted. Elections intended to cement military authority rather than signal peace or democratic transitions. So yeah, I mean, you can't just take power and then make you can't do that. So I guess the way forward would be some kind of democracy, right? Again, make dua, and God willing, we should have some kind of resolution, right? So I know there's some other things going on at the moment, but I'm going to leave it at that. In all honesty, I'm getting a bit of a headache just thinking about all this killing and stuff. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep making these videos talking about issues that are facing our ummah. whether it's anything in the political sphere or in social issues or anything else that is affecting us. I'm just gonna see if I can create some kind of a dialogue where we are actually talking about these things and being realistic about these things as well. So we can't just say that we're going to, basically have our way. We need to make lots of supplication, lots of dua, and keep to our duty as Muslims as well, because the victory comes when we keep to our order. And how can we expect to have peace if we are not doing what God has ordained? So that's all I have to say for today. And thank you very much.